Welcome to day 5, Make It Happen. In our last session, I talked about the importance of identifying and connecting with the motivations for each of your goals. And I said this was important because inevitably, you're going to find yourself in the messy middle. And having your motivations identified is a game changer. It'll give you the drive and the stamina you need to finish when you want to quit. Now, before we go any further, I want to recap our journey so far. We've covered a lot of ground in the last 4 sessions. For example, in session 1, we said to create your best year ever, you must believe in the possibility by embracing 3 truths about the future. In session 2, I shared a proven system to complete the past. In session 3, I showed you how to design your future with smarter goals. And in session 4, I gave you 4 actions to help you identify your why. And in this session, I want to talk about making it happen. And as we begin, be sure to download and print the worksheet in the resources menu to the right. It's ideal for following along, taking notes, and engaging with the course content. There's also an action plan at the end to help you effectively apply the lessons of the day. Now, whenever I'm stuck, whenever I need to get going, I found that the most important thing is to just start. You don't have to have everything figured out, just get moving. Years ago, a friend sent Gail and me to a Tony Robbins conference. It was my very first, and we sat in the front row, and that first night, he began talking about walking on fire. Now, I was admittedly a little naive, but I thought it was just a metaphor for overcoming adversity. But at some point in the evening, it dawned on us that this was no metaphor. He was talking about literally walking on fire. And well, that's what we did. In the hotel parking lot, Tony's people had set up a bed of hot coals. It was 20 feet long and 1,200 degrees hot. And we walked right across without a single injury. The most important thing I learned from that experience is that once you start, you're very likely going to finish. Well, it's like that with our goals too. The most important aspect of making it happen is starting. You don't have to see the end from the beginning. All you have to see is the next step. It's a little bit like walking through the forest at night. You begin to see a few steps, you walk a little further, you see a few steps more, you can walk a little further, and as it turns out, setting the goal is only half the job. The other half is taking definitive action. And in this closing session, I'll share 12 steps to help you do exactly that. Consider these your best practices for your best year ever. Step 1, get off your butt. Not butt with 2 T's, I'm talking about your excuses. Here are some examples. Well, I could do that, but I started a new job. Or I could do that, but I just don't have the energy. Or I could do that, but I have small children. Look, we all have our challenges. I have mine, you have yours. Everybody has their own challenges. But these challenges cannot become excuses. If we let them become excuses, we're going to stay stuck. We're not going to achieve our best year ever. It's time to get off your butt and take definitive action. Step 2, don't overthink it. You know, detailed action plans are terrific, especially if you're building a nuclear sub. But for most projects, for most of the goals that you and I will set, this kind of detail is overkill. It becomes an impediment to getting started. You can get involved in all kinds of research, all kinds of deep sea data dives, building elaborate plans, but chances are good you'll end up with a case of analysis paralysis if you're not careful. And I don't want that to happen to you, and you don't either. You've got too much to accomplish. What's the next action you need to take? Don't overthink it, just go. Step 3, chunk down your goals. Anyone can eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's when we try to do it all at once that we choke. Well, it's the same with your goal lists. Any goal is manageable, one action at a time. But when we think of everything to be done at once, we end up with a tangle of projects big enough to fill their own zip code. The good news is that you really only need to focus on your next action. That's it. Take the next action, and then the next, and eventually you'll arrive. It's kind of like when I put this course together for the first time a few years ago. I could have thought about everything I had to do, the production schedule, who we're going to hire to film it, all the scripts, all the different details. I promise you, I would still be thinking about it if that's where I had started. But instead, you know what I did? I created a file folder for each of the days in the 5 days. That's all I did on day one. Then I went from that to thinking about what was going to be the theme of day one and what would be the theme of day two. I harnessed the power of incremental change over time. I chunked it down and I worked one step a day, moving toward the goal. Step 4, get it on the calendar. What gets scheduled gets done. If it doesn't get on my calendar, it's probably not going to happen. You're not going to find time in the leftover hours of the day to try to accomplish your goals. You're going to have to make time for it. You're going to have to make it a priority and keep it like an appointment, like a commitment, just like you would with anyone else. Step 5, honor your commitments. You know, there's a huge difference between saying, I'm going to try to make something happen, and I'm going to make something happen. The first one is almost like saying, I'm going to give it a go, and if it works, great, but until I see the end result, I'm not going to fully commit. The problem is, it won't happen until you fully commit. It's like a quote that I read from the Scottish mountain climber W.H. Murray. He said, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creativity, there is one elementary truth, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Bottom line, until you commit, it's not going to happen. Without committing, you might have a decent year, but it'll never be your best year. Step 6, review your goals and key motivations. You can't just write goals and motivations. You've got to review them and keep them top of mind. My own practice is that I review my goals daily and my key motivations once a week. You can do this in a physical journal or a binder with your worksheets, or you can use a software solution like Evernote or Nozbe. You can even frame your goals and hang them on the wall. Loughborough University professor Cheryl J. Travers tracked students who not only wrote down their goals, but journaled about their progress. And she found they came to greater self-awareness about their goals and their progress, including about how pursuing one goal impacted their pursuit of the others. They were able to better analyze what was holding them back and what it would take to keep moving forward. Another study found similar results for people pursuing health and fitness goals. Reviewing your goals and motivations will keep you ideating, self-checking, and analyzing, and that'll up your resolve and stimulate creative problem solving. Step 7, share your goals selectively. Honestly, I didn't always believe this. I used to share my goals with basically anybody that would listen. In fact, I even posted them one year on my blog for the world to see. Then I heard Derek Sivers, the founder of CD Baby, speak at a TED conference. And here's what he said. When you share your goals with everyone, it actually makes them less likely to happen. Why? Because your brain experiences the same sense of psychological satisfaction as if you had actually accomplished them. It works against you. But I knew that couldn't be the whole story. And then I remembered the research from Dr. Gail Matthews, and I went back to that. Her research says that people who write down their goals, we talked about this previously, and share them with supportive friends do better than those who keep them private. Now, how do we reconcile these apparently two different contradictory views? Here's how I think we do it. We share our goals, but not with everyone. Instead, we share them selectively with supportive friends, people who understand the goal-setting process, people who are willing to help keep us accountable, people who are willing to call us out when we're making excuses, but people who are supportive of our goals. Step 8, maintain forward momentum. Man, momentum feels great. Our personal well-being improves every time we check something off our list. The closer we get to our goals, the greater our sense of confidence, excitement, and our sense of personal agency. And that's exactly why you can't afford to procrastinate. Once you get started, it's difficult to stop. But let's face it, once you stop, it's difficult to get restarted. As the prior steps help you get up to speed, you got to stay focused on momentum. Here's how I do it. Every morning, I look at my goals, just quickly, but I review them. I find the next action on a relevant goal, and I make sure that it's one of my big 3 tasks for the day. Then I attack it first thing. I want to keep checking items off my list and maintain momentum at all costs. Step 9, plan for contingencies and obstacles. Reaching your goals is a lot like running hurdles. Obstacles appear one after another, and it's easy to lose momentum, even if the goal really matters to us. One of the most effective ways to lower the hurdles is to plan for them in advance. Let's say your goal is to leave the office every day at 5 p.m. on the nose to be with your family. But you have phone calls, coworkers coming to talk, last-minute meetings, and a whole lot more. Every new request requires you to decide what matters more, leaving or the urgent requests that keep coming up. It wears down your resolve, and suddenly you're now walking out the door at 5:45. To get past these obstacles, you could create a series of what goal theorists call implementation intentions, contingency plans designed to address all the things that might keep you late. Here are just 4. If I get a phone call after 4:45 p.m., I'll let it go to voicemail. Or if a colleague sees me getting ready to leave and wants to talk, I'll let him know that I'm happy to do so tomorrow, but I'm expected home right now. Or if I get a meeting request for 4 p.m., I'll let the organizer know that I need to exit 5 minutes before the top of the hour and prepare my things for departure before the meeting. Or if I have email to answer before the end of the day, I'll do so by 4:30 p.m. and won't check email again after 4:45. You get the idea. Whatever your goal, the trick is to simply think through the contingencies and the obstacles that'll prevent you from achieving it. Once you've thought through the most likely hangups, you can respond so you know what to do the second they occur. It might take a little imagination to think through all the potential obstacles to your goals, but it's totally worth it. According to researchers Peter M. Goldweizer and Gabriel Ottingen, in almost 100 studies with more than 8,000 total participants, implementation intentions like these had a significant impact on helping people maintain momentum and reach their goals. This sort of planning smooths out the friction we experience trying to maintain momentum and gives us a way to overcome obstacles. Once you've used them a few times, they'll become second nature. Step 10, ask for help if you need it. Look, slowdowns are going to occur, but they don't have to grind us to a halt. If you're not making the progress you want to see, consider getting outside help. It might just be a friend or an accountability partner or a professional. For example, a few years ago, I was really struggling with strength training. I just couldn't seem to make any progress. I couldn't get started. So you know what I did? I hired a fitness trainer. I started working out with him 3 times a week. That was like 2 years ago. Suddenly, I got momentum. Whatever your resources, I'll bet you can find the help you need to get you off the dime and get into motion. Step 11, don't forget to pivot. You know, sometimes, no matter what we do, we run into obstacles that threaten to kill our momentum. And we can avoid that by being flexible and changing our approach. My daughter, Megan Hyatt Miller, who's also the CEO of our company, often says it this way: your goals may be sacred, but your strategy isn't. In other words, all that matters is whether or not it works. If the answer is no, you should feel free to chuck it out the window and try something else. If we're married to our strategies, when they fail us, as they're eventually going to, our goals will suffer. But if we're committed to the outcome, to the goal, we can confidently pivot on our strategies as often as we need to in order to hit our targets. Step 12, celebrate your wins. Now I'm going to tell you something that probably won't surprise you, but I'm an achiever. This makes stopping to celebrate very difficult for me. Once I check the goal off, I'm on to the next one. But you can't let that happen if you're really going to make progress and if you're going to have your best year ever. You've got to slow down. You've got to learn to celebrate the milestones along the way. Megan is excellent at this. She's a high achiever too, but she learned this lesson early on. When you celebrate the wins, you validate the work. When you skip the celebration, you devalue all your efforts. That's why it's so critical to dance across the mile markers. Bring your family into it. Bring your staff into it. But take time to celebrate. Reinforce it. Let it sink into your nervous system and power you across the goal line. If you take these 12 steps, I'm confident you can make this your best year ever. It's the difference between planning your work and working your plan. You know the drill by now. If you haven't already printed the worksheet, go ahead and do it now. I've got one final action plan for you. First, go through your goal list and identify the next action for each goal. Now, you don't need a lot of detail. Remember, don't overthink it. Just pick the next most obvious action. That's the one you'll execute first. Then as you step closer to the goal, the next actions will become clear, and you'll keep populating your task list with your next action items. Second, schedule a month's worth of appointments on your calendar to work on your goals. This is going to be huge for you. Book these as appointments with yourself so that the urgent doesn't take priority over the important. Your best year ever is important, but if you don't book these dates, it isn't going to happen. Finally, schedule a regular time to review your goals and your key motivations. I do this, as I mentioned, quickly every day, and then once a week, a deeper dive, and then once a month, an even deeper dive, and then once a quarter to revise and tweak. The important thing is to get these on your calendar so that you've got the time to review. There you have it. If you've done all the session exercises, you're well on your way to having your best year ever. But you're not here by accident. I don't think you bought this course by accident. There's something big here for you, something at stake, and it's critically important that you follow through. It's not just about you. Other people are counting on you. I'm counting on you. I want you to experience your best year ever. Now go make it happen.